Right, welcome back, friends. Today we'll be talking about Mars ingress into the sign of Libra. This is the current transit happening. However, if you have this in your natal chart, this video will also apply. Now I'm contemplating, do I talk about the 5 lessons related to Mars in Libra, or let's do it? So lesson number 1 with Mars in Libra, we got to learn how to act without dominating other people. And during this transit, we're going to have to learn that action doesn't always have to be super loud. Power doesn't have to look like conquest, the exertion of our power, practice of it, especially with that opposition with Saturn in the sign of Aries. Our lesson is here, how do we assert ourselves without being super aggressive, violating? How do we have an influence in the world, but without overwhelming it, overpowering it? So in a lot of ways, this transit is talking about the evolution of our will. It's about how do we not lose our shit and set the world on fire, but learn to have contained fire, to direct it and to share it. Fire can burn your kitchen down because it's not contained. Contained fire will cook your food. This is a differentiation we're going to be learning with this transit. And if we have this in our birth chart, lifetime of learning. You're getting mastery, a PhD in it. Lesson number 2, we have to find strength in diplomacy and in connecting with many rather than being the epitome of strength in my own individual self and in exerting my force. And this will teach us that confrontation is not always the bravest choice. And Mars in Libra, when it's unrefined, it has a tendency to think that diplomacy is weakness. It thinks of it as a kind of an avoidance. It'll mock people in early years of life for being diplomatic. But as it ages, as it grows, it sees that, hey, this is actually a very smart form of navigating and moving through life. There's power in seeing other people, their stance and their viewpoint, and not to lose our own stance. Like diplomacy, Mars comes to learn, hey man, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can have my own stance, other people can have their own stance, and we can actually unite and cooperate, and we're like a bigger body that's even stronger. Lesson number 3, we got to learn how to fight for other people and not just for ourselves. That's the nature of Libra. So we're going from an egoic will to an ethical will, to a collective will. And the way that Mars can do this in the sign of Libra is to fight for justice, because Mars still wants to fight. We can't make Mars someone who just sits there and enjoys petting their cat. It needs to fight for something. But the maturity has to teach us that the maturity of Mars is about, yes, you're fighting, but it's not for personal victory and it's not for our own ego. So this transit is a time to understand what it means to stand up for other people, to fight for other people on their behalf, and not to fight just for what's mine. Like, I'm going to fight for it because I have this feeling that this should be in my possession, but fighting for what's right. So this is a warrior as an advocate or an ally. Mars here is the protector of the social fabric at its highest form in the sign of Libra, of life itself. And the greatest lesson that Mars will learn in a lifetime, if you have this in a natal chart, that there's much more power and strength, courage, bigger goals. You can even move faster when you can move away from the notion of me towards we. And this transit will also give us a glimpse of this. And now going to lesson number 4. This is about how do we balance our will with the relational will. So Mars in the sign of Libra is always walking a fine line between its own personal will and what's required for collective harmony. Mars's natural inclination is always like, what do I want? But we're going to have to learn here is that what does the relationship want? Because Mars, once when you know that, you can still go out there and get, you can still protect, but it's not for the same initial reason of because I want it. So Mars can be activated, but towards the greater good, to maintaining peace, harmony, considering more than just oneself. And when we have mastery of this doesn't feel like self-erasure anymore. At the beginning, it will. Like, I'm completely being neglected because I'm constantly asking you what you want. But it's like going into combat. You like, let's say you do jujitsu, you grapple. You got to know how you move with another person. It's not just about you moving, what you want to pull off. It's getting this or cultivating relational awareness. You're becoming actually more intelligent. Mars can become more intelligent in the sign of Libra. And last lesson, lesson number 5. Mars in the sign of Libra needs to learn how to pause. If it wants to be ethical, if it wants to have a sense of harmony, peace, anything that the sign of Libra represents, Mars needs to learn how to slow down, pause, contemplate, not to go from that state of paralysis where it's not even moving to a state of rapid movement, something in between. Because Mars has to understand its relational impact in the sign of Libra. We have to understand our relational impact. We have to understand how we're being received. It's not just about what we're giving out. It's like, how is it being received? Because it's going to have a feedback, and that feedback will affect us. And if we're in a vicious loop, this is how violence is created. This is what Mars just needs to pause. Like our desire to act, constantly act, because that's Mars, has to be checked with, well, how are we maintaining balance in our life, in our own life, with other people, in our work environment? Look at the house where the sign is fallen into. It's talking about the relational dynamics, the people that are in that house. And it's important not to get frustrated by it, like you're confused because you're taking this moment, you're slowing things down a little bit. It's the way to analyze outcomes. It's about feeling, it's about finding context, understanding what we value and what we want to preserve, what we want to defend. It's the only way that we can go from a reactive mode to an intentional mode. And I was saying the sign of Libra has a lot of intentionality in how its cardinal aspect initiates motion and action. And when Mars is able to do this, that dharmic component of Mars comes to be about acting with integrity in the sign of Libra, rather than reacting in a way that everything and everyone around you feels violated. People who have Mars in Libra before the maturity of this planet, they have been called selfish over and over. And the maturation of this planet has to involve how it takes other people into consideration. And it requires this slowing down and pausing a little bit. And if we really pay attention in this transit, because usually we look at transits in a very shallow way, like we want to know what's going to happen to us. That's a very Martian way of looking at it. And we want to manipulate the process to get the outcome that we want to get. Again, very Mars and Libra kind of a feel when it's unrefined. But if we go a little bit deeper, if we become an observer of this transit, watch ourselves, watch the people that we're in relation with, we'll start to see something much deeper that can have a positive impact for the rest of our lives in terms of why do we act? On whose behalf do we act? Towards what end are we constantly acting? This understanding will change everything, and we'll understand the depth of the dynamic in the sign of Libra when Mars is placed there. So I talked a lot. I think this is good for Mars in Libra. And please comment, because that actually keeps the conversation alive, and everyone experiences things differently. And it's beautiful when we share and we get to see how it's unfolding itself in different lives. That's it for today. Sending you much love. Till next time.